Look like Brianna, Stewart, and Sabrina has broken their silence about this massacre they team just
won. And welcome back. I hope you're all doing great. Today, I'm back with another exciting and action-packed video for you. If you're a fan of the WNBA, Caitlin Clark, and the latest basketball updates, make sure to stay with us until the very end because you won't want to miss today's story. So without wasting any more time, let's get dominant 108-88 victory. What began as a competitive and hard-fought matchup quickly turned into a complete second-half takeover by Indiana. Their honest comments about Caitlin Clark's performance left little room for debate. Their remarks reflected their recognition of Clark's outstanding performance and the impact she had on the game. What do you think? Were you surprised by how gracious the Liberty Stars were in defeat, or do you think they were simply being diplomatic in their post-game comments? If you appreciate this content, consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel. Believe it or not, more than 93% of viewers haven't subscribed yet. It's free and only takes a second, but it means the world to us. So, did you subscribe already? Great. Thank you so much for your support. Now back to the video.
That as the defending champions might have been the greatest women's basketball performance we have ever seen. That might have been the greatest showing from a WNBA player we have ever witnessed. That was spectacular. The shots she hit in this game, y'all, were something like I've never seen any other women basketball player ever come close to hitting. There are NBA superstars out there that I have not seen have a game
scenario. As the reigning champions, the New York Liberty entered this game comfortably atop the rankings, perhaps believing they could defeat a Fever team that had been having trouble without its main player. Rather, students received a comprehensive basketball instruction along with a certificate. After missing 5 games due to injury, Caitlin Clark showed everyone why she is the most significant player in professional basketball right away. 7 assists, 17 points, and enough highlights to fill a Netflix documentary. Here's the worst part, however. Sabrina and Brianna Stewart did not back down or make excuses when Clark and the Fever had outworked them. What took place? They presented Clark with the flowers she
is, and I think we just gave her too many easy ones. Obviously, she has great range, and her ability to get her shot off is really impressive, especially with missing some games. And so, obviously, on a personal level, I'm really happy to see her back out on the court, healthy, feeling good, because obviously it's important for them. But
prowess, her range, and above all, her capacity to make a shot in spite of defensive pressure. That goes beyond just being courteous. That is identifying exceptional talent when you see it, even if it just made you seem foolish on national television. However, Sabrina did more than just recognize Clark's abilities. She was really delighted to see Clark back on the court in good health. Personally, I'm thrilled to see her back on the court in excellent health because, although it is clearly crucial for them, I am also pleased for her. You would not say it about someone you saw as just an adversary. That is how you show appreciation for a player you think is unique. Sabrina's admission that they gave Clark too many easy ones was the most revealing aspect of her remarks. Take a moment to consider it. One of the greatest shooters in WNBA history is saying this. Recognizing that even somewhat open looks become routine makes due to Clark's exceptional shot-making skill. Sabrina is an expert at blasting threes from unattainable distances, so you pay attention when she says someone has excellent range. Although it took a different tack, Brianna Stewart's strategy was just as courteous. Stewart, one of the most successful players in the league with titles and MVP honors, could have easily diverted attention from Clark's performance by emphasizing officiating or team failures. Rather, she accepted the fact that a superior team had outplayed them that specific evening.
Action with one another. Stewie's laughing. Caitlin knows it's ridiculous. Just out there having a good time with it.
Throughout the game, Brianna Stewart's body language sent a message. Stewart was standing by to protect her as Clark hit that logo 3. Stewart actually grinned and seemed to enjoy the shot rather than expressing annoyance or rage. Even if it came at the price of their team, it is the response of someone who realizes they have just seen something exceptional. We too had our times.
We had our moments. We got back into the game. We had that run when Stewie was guarding Caitlin Clark, but then they executed well. And, we had so many breakdowns on defense, and they made shots. They really punished us on that end, making, 17 threes from 35. It was just too wide open. So
Stewart mentioned defensive lapses that were not accidental errors. They resulted directly from Clark's gravitational pull on the defenses of the opposition. Teams' defensive strategies are drastically altered when a single player can pull up from anywhere beyond half court and make it seem effortless. The Liberty were utterly unsuccessful in their attempt to protect Clark while keeping everyone else safe. The setting of the competition that media outlets have attempted to create between Clark and other WNBA players is what gives these post-game remarks even more significance. Ionescu and Stewart both followed the high road and provided frank evaluations of what they saw rather than feeding into the drama or making fun of Clark's achievements. Even the most prejudiced spectator cannot dispute the narrative that the game's data convey. The Fever had a very high three-point shooting percentage. When defenses are so preoccupied with stopping one player that they leave professional shooters wide open, Clark leads the charge and her teammates profit from the attention she commands. As a result, professional shooters often hit their shots. Stewart's admission that they strained their players in an attempt to match the Fever's offensive explosion illustrates the psychological effect Clark has on rival teams. Rushed shoots and defensive lapses resulted from the Liberty's eagerness to match the Fever's offensive production. That goes beyond basketball. That is one person controlling the game's overall flow. This narrative gained more depth from the coach's point of view. Sandy Brondello did not provide justifications for poor officiating or absent players. She admitted that the Fever performed better and made their shots when it counted. You can tell that an opponent's performance was genuine and outstanding when coaches at the championship level give them full credit. The Liberty's defensive stats from this game are very terrible. They let up 102 points, 53 of which came in the first half, to a club that had been having offensive difficulties without Clark. It is more than simply bad defense. One player's ability to distort rival game plans is the reason for such whole systematic failure. It was intriguing when Sabrina said that basketball is a game of runs, since it recognized that the Fever's supremacy was not only due to a strong shooting night or fortunate break. She saw that Indiana kept up their energy throughout the game and successfully carried out their strategy. That is praising long-term greatness instead of fleeting luck. This game's whole plot is revealed by the shooting discrepancy. While the Liberty only made 20% of their three-pointers, the Fever made 17. That is not fortuitous. Because one team's top player demands so much defensive attention that everyone else becomes more threatening, that team receives better looks. Stewart's analysis of the team's resiliency was insightful, since it showed how deeply this tragedy impacted their mental health. Although the Liberty take great pleasure in their ability to compete at the championship level, they acknowledge that they had trouble keeping up with Clark's speed and execution. The transition game statistics from this matchup were especially harsh for the Liberty, and it tells volumes about Clark's influence when defending champs are talking about having to look in the mirror after losing to a club that was written off without its star. In contrast to their prior difficulties in that area, the Fever produced 19 quick break possibilities. Clark's ability to accelerate and generate scoring opportunities before defenses can line up is directly responsible for that. Stewart recognized this by pointing out how challenging it was when they were unable to establish their half-court offense and generate stops. Ionescu's admission that they struggle offensively when they cannot transition shows how much Clark's presence interfered with their overall strategy. Defensive stops that created attacking chances were the foundation of the Liberty's identity. However, the whole structure collapses when the other side scores at will. Clark's solo performance was not the only way she defeated them. She broke down their idea of a team. For the Liberty, the difference in free throws made matters worse. They were unable to match the Fever's offensive effectiveness, even though they received more foul calls. Stewart's admission that they did not reach the rim far enough illustrates how Clark's perimeter presence made it harder to locate and take advantage of driving lanes. The explanation of coaching changes was especially fascinating, since it showed how the Liberty attempted many defensive strategies to slow down Clark but were unsuccessful. They made all the changes. They experimented with zone coverage. They tried to completely deny her the ball. Nothing was effective. A player has transcended typical basketball categories when championship-level coaching staffs are at a loss for solutions. Stewart's remarks on team identity and understanding who we are were instructive, as they implied that this defeat made them re-evaluate their position in the league hierarchy. The Liberty were the league leaders and reigning champs going into this game, but they left wondering whether they are indeed the greatest team when everyone is healthy. These post-game comments get an additional depth from the global viewpoint. Both Ionescu and Stewart have competed internationally for their nations and are familiar with the highest levels of competitive basketball. Their assessment of Clark's skill is more credible as it comes from athletes who have faced the greatest in the world and are able to recognize excellence. The fact that Sabrina specifically mentioned Clark's ability to make her shot brought to light a distinction between skilled shooters and outstanding scorers. Making open shots is not the only thing to do. When the game is on the line, you have to create and make shots as defenders are all over you. Throughout this game, Clark frequently shown that skill. Stewart mentioned defensive communication problems, but these were not coincidental mistakes. They resulted directly from Clark's mobility and decision-making, which made defenders make snap decisions that often turned out to be incorrect. Even championship-level teams become unimpressive when one player can routinely put 5 defenders in untenable situations. The conversation over the tempo of play demonstrated how Clark's comeback altered the game's overall flow. The liberty are used to commanding gameplay and regulating pace. However, Clark's presence compelled them to adopt a fast-paced approach that benefited Indiana's players and strategy. Stewart's recognition of this demonstrates his professional regard for Clark's influence on game flow. Making shots was not the only aspect of the shooting performance that earned high recognition. It has to do with choosing shots and making choices under duress. Even while making seemingly challenging shots, Clark continually made the correct decisions at the proper moments. Ionescu's acknowledgement of this demonstrates an awareness of the differences between players who are just excellent and those who are genuinely outstanding. Clark's return instantly restored the Fever's attacking identity, making the conversation about team chemistry pertinent. Without her, players who previously had trouble finding rhythm seemed at ease and self-assured. Stewart saw that this was more than simply individual genius in his assessment on execution. It was a single player that greatly improved everyone around them. The Liberty's attempt to put Clark under defensive pressure failed dramatically since it gave her teammates more chances. Stewart's admission that she gave up too many open ones demonstrated how Clark's strength as a scorer generates benefits that go much beyond her specific numbers. The post-game interview's examination of the game plan demonstrated how well the Fever had prepared for this encounter. They took advantage of defensive patterns that championship teams often manage to conceal and targeted certain Liberty vulnerabilities. The execution of these strategic advantages was largely dependent on Clark's court vision and decision-making. Once Clark found her stride, the game's momentum changes all appeared to go in Indiana's favor. Because Clark could generate offense from wherever on the court, the Fever had a response even when the Liberty scored runs. Stewart's recognition of this fact demonstrated professional respect for a player who has the ability to alter game results on their own. Beyond only scoring, Clark's 7 assists demonstrated her ability to improve teammates' performances, demonstrating her statistical domination. Ionescu's appraisal of Clark's whole game demonstrated an awareness that individuals who are genuinely excellent have an influence on winning in more ways than simply individual scoring. Stewart and Ionu were both aware of the championship ramifications of this defeat. They admit that when Clark is healthy, losing to the Fever alters the perception of the league's top club. Defending champions do not make such an admission lightly. These post-game remarks demonstrate a level of respect that goes beyond simple professionalism. Both athletes recognized that they had seen a performance that reaffirmed Clark's status as a generational talent. They demonstrated the type of sportsmanship that enhances the league as a whole by being prepared to give credit where credit is due. You know you have seen something exceptional when defending champions publicly commended the player who just made them look bad. Instead of offering justifications, Ionescu and Stewart respected Clark for her commanding performance. How did you feel about their elegant reaction to being outplayed? For more WNBA analysis that keeps it interesting, click the like button, share your opinions below, and subscribe. If you are a Clark fan, comment below. CC 100%.